Ever wonder what chickens do when you're not looking?
No chicken escapes from Tweedy's farm!
We've got to get out of here.
They're on a mission.
Operation Cover Up!
That's Chicken Impossible Chicken Run.
This egg will hatch in 5 seconds.
I mustn't panic.
Hello and welcome to episode 49 of We'll Review It Our Shelves, the podcast where we review the movies on our shelves. Every 2 weeks we'll take a randomly selected movie from our collection and we'll review it ourselves. I'm still Brian Morgan, and joining me normal is regular.
We don't use the N-word around me.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I meant in the sense that you're the regular Dan.
Usual.
Listeners, I was explaining to Dan off mic before we started recording that I had referred to him as regular Dan because, just like me, Dan doesn't usually listen to the podcast because we recorded. We already kind of know what we said. I know
what I said.
You've listened to some of the, bigger ones, I guess, haven't you?
Yeah, it's just unfortunately I'm not the kind of person that likes to hear myself talk, although I am accused of that many, many times. It's like, you just want to hear yourself talk. I'm like, well, not really.
Fair enough.
I think the amount of times that I've listened to my own podcast is testament to that argument.
I have generally gotten over listening to my voice electronically reproduced because, as we've discussed before, I do all of the editing, so I kind of had to. It's interesting, some of the little quirks you find in your own voice, just as an aside, and I'm trying to work on it. I have noticed, and I know we're not even into the movie yet or listener feedback or anything, but I have noticed that when we record later at night on my side, because again, listeners, West Coast, East Coast, that sort of thing, I can tell when I start to get tired because I start slurring my S's a little bit more. I think it's fairly natural. You just get used to speaking the way you speak, and then when you're tired, you just sort of get a little sleepy, and it's interesting. I can tell anyway. Maybe it's just me listening to myself and being hypercritical, but listeners, if I sound tired, it's probably because we recorded later. So if you don't like the tired sound, let us know. Leave us feedback at the locations we'll provide at the end of the episode.
Yeah, we're not drunk.
I drank one time. I don't remember what episode it was, but I did have a drink. I wasn't drunk, though. I just had a drink. So usually I just drink coffee up here. It's very exciting.
Yay.
Dan usually pops a soda.
Yeah. So to get back to our intro, as always, Dan Bergman.
Yeah, that guy.
The real Dan Bergman.
Are you the real Slim Shady too?
No, I was not even a fake Slim Shady.
Fair enough. All right then. Okay. So we are doing Chicken Run this week, or this 2 weeks, this episode. How about that? We're doing Chicken Run this episode. And before we get to that, and before we get to how this got on our shelves, we did get some listener feedback on the Tin Cup episode. And the feedback was on our Facebook page, and it was about Tin Cup in general, I guess. Nobody really said anything about the differences between the two episodes. But from listener Jeff, he said, "It's good to know you've got an emergency backup, Dan. You can never be too prepared." And I was lucky my brother-in-law happened to be down that week. So once again, thank you, Dan Arndt, for stepping in as emergency backup Dan. It's kind of like a generator, like just fired him up and let him go. It was kind of fun. And from listener Robert Neese, he said, "Guys, if you must do another golf movie episode, your choice is clear. And contained in that post was a GIF of Adam Sandler from the movie Happy Gilmore. And I did let him know that that is on the list, so when it randomly pops up, we'll do Happy Gilmore too.
Whose list?
I own it.
Oh.
So, okay. Well, don't spoil it for everyone. You're going to have to watch it. I guess Dan doesn't own that one, I guess.
Oh.
Well, yeah, you're going to have to watch it. So, sorry about that. Whoopity-doo, I believe is a quote from that movie. I have a different selection of movies than you do. That's why we're here.
Indeed. Yeah. I have to find another Killer Clowns from Outer Space for you to watch one of these days.
Okay, I didn't mind the Killer Clowns. Although, I mean, I had to go to the Hulu, but that's fine. Whatever, I'm good. So, that's all of our listener feedback. So, moving past that, I guess it's my turn to ask since you asked me. Dan?
Yeah.
How did this movie get on your shelf?
Well, oddly enough, this one is not on my shelf.
Really?
Which, yeah, and I say oddly enough because I am a big Nick Park fan. I saw Wallace and Gromit for the first time at an animation festival in San Diego. Was just immediately fell in love with his animation and his characters. So, why this one never ended up on my shelf? That's a mystery.
Interesting. Do you think it will?
I think so. I was just looking up on Amazon, and the funny thing is, like, you put in Chicken Run in the search engine, you will have 3 ads for chicken coops before you actually get to the movie Chicken Run on their entries. Which some chicken coops are very expensive, by the way, man. $518 for the first one. Woo. So, yeah, $518, and Miss Tweety had, what, 20-something odd chicken coops, man? Man, she had a lot of invested in that chicken farm.
Yes. And obviously, with diminishing returns, she was going to make it into something else, but we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. But, yeah, like I said, I mean, Chicken Run on Blu-ray is only like $15, DVD $5. It's not a high priority, but it will eventually get there. Because, like I said, I think I like Nick Park more than I dislike Mel Gibson, so...
Okay, fair enough. I own this movie because it's a fun movie. I like Wallace and Gromit. I like the stop motion animation style. I have liked or been interested in the movies that he's made afterwards, like the pirate movie. I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it. Just came out recently. I like animated movies, and this is, I think, the 3rd non-Disney animated movie that we've done. So, and the first stop motion, which I have toyed around with stop motion myself, doing some stop motion Lego films, shorts. And when I say shorts, I mean probably about 10 seconds worth of activity, and fully appreciate the amount of effort that goes into that, because it's mind-bogglingly slow, and to make those small, minute changes to get the sense of motion is taxing, and I applaud the people that do that.
It's not just the sense of motion, though. I mean, if you want to look back at the early stop motion, and it was stop motion animation before people realized what stop motion animation was. I mean, you look at the old films all the way back to like 1933's King Kong. You know, I mean, that was stop motion animation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just the sense of motion, but, you know, to get the sense of emotion from these characters, that, you know, it's like better acting in some of these characters than you get from actual actors. You know?
Yes.
You know, we talk a lot about, you know, don't just tell me, you know, kind of show me thing, you know, and it's like this movie had a lot of that. You had a lot of that show me. Don't tell me that the chicken is distressed. You saw it was she was distressed. Every time she got thrown into solitary, you saw the frustration in her face. And to get that out of a lump of clay that you take a frame per, you know, every couple of seconds, you know, it's just that's amazing.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. That's why I have always appreciated that animation style, and I think this movie does a great job of that. So without further ado, I think we're really just sort of moving into talking about the movie because what we just talked about, that style and that sort of entertainment value and the relationship again to a known property, Wallace and Gromit, is why this movie's on my shelf.
And why it'll probably end up in mine eventually.
Cool. So going into the actual movie, it's pretty much a remake of The Great Escape.
Yeah, you could say that. That's actually the first movie I thought of when I saw it, especially that she's in Hut 17, was the other POW movie, Stalag 17.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, and it's like, but yeah, a lot of the elements from The Great Escape. I mean, I believe the cart and the shovel thing where she gets in the cart and taps it with the shovel, that was from The Great Escape. The fence line in Hut 17, those are elements of Stalag 17. So a good mix. A lot of good references in this movie, which we'll get to. But that most prominently, especially in the first couple of minutes of the movie.
Well, even towards the end, though, when Rocky has escaped and he's out riding on the tricycle while he's living free or living like a free-range chicken or whatever, that tricycle scene is an homage to The Great Escape as well, when I believe it's Steve McQueen's character steals a German motorcycle.
Yeah.
This was pitched, at least from my research and from what I knew before, this was pitched as a stop-motion chicken animated retelling of The Great Escape. So I think it's more than just well, it is an homage in and of itself. It's more than just elements of. It's a pretty complete retelling of, only with chickens.
Which is kind of funny. It's like they really just kind of. I know the word whitewash has got a different connotation in Hollywood, but I mean, did they just whitewash the whole World War II POW experience with that of lighthearted chickens?
Well, I mean, yeah, kinda, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, they made it fun and accessible, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's a thing. I mean, yes, but I mean, it's entertainment. I mean, we can. I guess you could say that's what happened, if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I prefer to look at it as just a lovely little animated film that I had a good time with. Thank you very much.
No, I had a good time with it too. I mean, you can look at movies at all different kind of angles and everything else.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that what you said is absolutely true. If you wanted to apply that, you certainly could. I don't know that was what they were going for. So I think a lot of times that people will apply labels to movies that don't necessarily fit what it was the movie makers were trying to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a little bit. In other words, it's like there are people who try to find things that really aren't there.
Yes.
And they'll really work hard to make their conspiracy theory work. And it's like, oh, that's thin, man. That's real thin.
Yes, which is ironically a line in another Mel Gibson movie, Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, almost anorexic, he said.
Yep. You're gonna bust Dixie. Anyway, sorry, Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson thing. So moving on to the voice actors, which I mean we usually tend to talk about with animated movies. Mel Gibson. Let's get that one out of the way. I'm aware of how you feel about Mel Gibson. Do you think he did a good job in this movie? And then do your thing. In
a sense, yes. I will have to, bite my tongue and give credit where credit is due. And, I always try to do that. His voice acting was solid. Considering knowing part of his personal character, it made his movie character kind of that much more believable as the very, very flawed kind of anti-hero, I guess. I don't even know if anti-hero is the correct word for this particular character, but he basically is lying to them. He's defrauding them. He's despicable, and it just, again, knowing who's providing the voice of that of Rocky, that character, it just made it more solid in that sense. It's like, yeah, okay, guy's a jerk. No problem. I totally believe it. Totally buying into it. Redeemable? Well, in the movie, yeah. In real life, remains to be seen.
So, going to Mel Gibson in real life, I mean, he's kind of been out of the public eye generally for a while, ever since his drunken outburst. Has he had an opportunity to redeem himself in general and specifically to you?
Not yet. And I'd say the thing is, like, ever since he's been out of the spotlight, though, it's like I basically got to learn more about his other movies and his directorial outings, and just really liked him even less because of that. I think we've mentioned it before in other podcasts about his quote unquote historical movies or anything but, and then the lame ass excuses that his team and he makes. I mean, when he talks about Braveheart, it's like, really, you couldn't just change the 0 to an 8 on telling us when the king died. The king of Scotland died. It's like, he died like, was it? Again, forgive me if I don't have the exact numbers, but he supposedly died in 1308. But they said he died in 1300. Really, you didn't have the budget for an 8? just to be just yeah. It's just I mean, yeah, granted, movies are not historical documentaries. I'll hear that argument many times and everything, but if you want to say that it's a movie based on a true story, well, try to be true to the story. And a lot of times it's his things are just so like, I'm just going to toss this out the window because I just don't want to do this. It's lazy. It's I get that Hollywood cannot be 100% accurate on movies. I mean, a good example that I feel that I bring up, is Black Hawk Down.
Okay.
Couldn't be 100% accurate. I read the book. There's a lot of differences from the historical account from people who were there, versus the film. But a lot of that was Hollywood limitations. Yeah, okay, one character ended up being kind of a criminal, so they just made an amalgam of him, based on several characters making into one, just to kind of whitewash that away and everything like that. So I understand that there's certain things, but I mean, ultimately they stayed true to the spirit of the story. They stayed true to the general accuracy of what happened. It did the memory of that occurrence and the men who fought. They did honor to that. And Clint Eastwood, same thing. I mean, his whole thing about talking about Iwo Jima. He stayed true. And even though, again, he's another one of mine who it's like, can you separate the man from the entertainment that he provides and everything like that? Yeah, I mean, he's ultra conservative. People say you don't like Clint Eastwood. It's like, well, I don't like his politics, but I like his movies. I can separate the two. Mel Gibson, not so much, because he willy-nilly with the movies, the little racist outbreaks that he's gone on. It's very difficult for me to separate the man from his movies.
Well, I think in this movie it's a lot easier because it's just the voice and you don't really see him on the screen. So maybe that helped with the processing of this movie.
I think so. I think, yeah, with that separation, and from what I read in the trivia, he kind of did the voice acting a little separately from everyone else.
I didn't read that part.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but like I said, it's like his lines were done in a different studio or something. It wasn't, but yeah, like you said, there's a disconnect, and I think that's what made it go down a little easier. He wasn't in charge; he just provided the voice. It's like,
yeah, and he definitely wasn't the director for this, so that does kind of give it to someone else because, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on Mel Gibson in particular, but a lot of the more recent movies that he's been involved with has primarily been as the director. Apocalypto, and did I say that right? The Passion of the Christ, Hacksaw Ridge, and he's got another couple of movies coming out. So I think, going back to my original question about in general, I think Hollywood has kind of forgiven him. I'm not saying everyone, I'm not saying all the way, but they are at the very least doing kind of what you were talking about, separating his work from himself, because he did recently win an Oscar. And, that does show, in my mind, that he hasn't been or is not still blacklisted or, being treated as a pariah. Because there was a big long break after, because it was like 2004, 2005 that all that stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then he took like we'll call it a 4 or 5 year, it seems like based on his IMDb thing, we'll call it a sabbatical. He was, probably anathema for a good few years unless he wanted to do something himself. And in that time, I think it kind of became like, oh, are you still doing the thing? Yeah, have you calmed down? Okay, I guess we can work with you. Hollywood can be weird that way sometimes.
Yeah, I would say a lot, Hollywood and pop culture in general has a very short memory span. They tend to forget things, so he probably played that card. So if it just lay low for a little while, people will forget. And they probably have. So,
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, and I know we're still on this, and I didn't really want to keep staying on it, but here we are. But going to the concept of the apology, I think it was around about the time that Mel Gibson exploded, and I mean, actors, male and female, have their moments. Politicians, I mean, anybody who's in the public sphere at some point is going to say something that's going to piss a lot of people off. And I think I was watching a documentary, or maybe it was just a segment on a news show or something, about how long do we give someone for an apology? What's the criteria for meeting the truly apologetic statement? Like, if they just come in and read from a statement like, I am really sorry for the hurt that I caused, and I will never do it again. I have looked inside myself and found that I've got some things to fix about myself, then that's an issue, especially for someone who is in a position where they should at least be able to emote about what they're saying. And I think that gives an apology weight. I think when he apologized, I don't know that he felt truly sincere about it. I think it was kind of apologizing for getting caught as opposed to, feeling apologetic for what he'd said. So, but by the same token, I still watch movies with Mel Gibson in them, that they exist. I enjoy the movies for what they are, and I don't know, it's something that I can separate the actor from the art.
Okay. And it's... Oh, go on. I'm going to finish.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, and it still bothers me. I mean, I don't, like what he said. But again, there, if Mark Hamill came out and said something, terrible, I'd be like, oh crap, I don't want to have to stop liking Star Wars or anything like that. I would still appreciate what he did in Star Wars, and other movies that I've seen it in. But, it's just kind of tricky sometimes, because there are some actors that you hear and you go, oh my God, I can never watch those movies again. Or I can't watch anything that they do in the future. But at some point, I'll probably eventually be exposed to the movie and go, God, it's such a good movie though. Damn it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This is, my final thing on this, because like I said, I know you want to move on from this and everything, but, I just, the first thing I think of too is like when it comes to controversies of Hollywood actors and their behavior, the first thing I think of is like, you ever watch a Fatty Arbuckle movie? And people look at you funny, It's just like, okay, even if they do know who that is, it's like, of course, why wouldn't I, if they knew who I'm talking about at all? But again, he was embroiled in a lot of controversy way back when, and it's mostly forgotten. People remember his movies. They look at his movies and say, oh yeah, that's classic, silent cinema and everything, And for the most part, yeah, people, actors, they're humans. They make some mistakes from time to time. I mean, my cousin for a while refused to watch Woody Allen movies because of his affair with, oh geez, what was her name?
Soon Lee?
Yes.
Or no. Is that her name?
I want to say yes. Her name. That sounds familiar. But
his adopted daughter.
Yeah, that affair. But the thing is now you look at it, it's like, well, it wasn't just a tryst. It wasn't just a, I'm gonna diddle the young girl or whatever. No, it's they're still together. I believe they're raising a family. So it's actually turned into a legitimate relationship. So, I had a relative who, like said, he could not watch Woody Allen movies, but now he's reconsidering because of the time that has passed. He has forgiven. It's like realizing that they're human, the heart does weird things, and you move on. And that's the thing. I mean, so a lot of actors, I look at and I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's like if one actor came out and says, oh yeah, I voted for Trump, I'd be like, like if Mark Hamill came out and said that, I'd be like, oh, it's like, but yeah, like you, I'm not prepared to throw away my Star Wars collection. It's like, all right, politics aside, he was still a nerd legend, and I'll move on.
Yeah, but I mean, and it goes to, like you'd spoken about earlier, Clint Eastwood. I mean, I still like Clint Eastwood movies. I mean, I love Gran Torino.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I'm aware of Clint Eastwood's politics, but if it's a movie that I want to see, or it's a particularly well-made movie, or a well-presented movie, or well acted, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I really try hard to separate the person from the character.
Yeah, and for the most part, I'm able to do that. And like I said, the only thing is with Mel Gibson is that some of his asinine behavior bled a little bit into some of his movies. And like I said, when it comes to Patriot and Apocalypto and Braveheart, it's just like, yeah, a lot of people say those are great movies, but I look at them in a different light, and I was like, no, I can't, and that's the thing. His personality bled into his movies, his politics bled into his movies, and that's why I view him in a different way that I do people like Eastwood and other conservative actors. So that's my say. That's my done. So moving on to the rest of the movie. Let's be. And also by the way, yeah, it is in the trivia section of IMDb. Mel Gibson recorded all his lines separately in the United States. The rest of the crew recorded together at Aardman Animations Limited in Bristol, England.
Bristol. There's a Bristol, Tennessee / Virginia. There's a racetrack there.
Oh, nice.
It's a half mile. They call it the Bull Ring. Again, NASCAR kind of a thing. Anyway. But speaking of other actors, there's not a lot of other really famous actors and actresses. I mean, again, to be sexist or whatever. The IMDb list has a lot of people whose names I did not recognize. Although one, I looked at the photo because I didn't recognize the name. I was like, oh, hey, that's that guy from that movie. One of the two rats is, I think it was I don't want to say the smaller one, but the taller one, because there was a short, dumpy one and a taller one. The one who was the supporting rat as opposed to the lead rat is actually voiced by Timothy Spall, who is the actor that plays a rat in the Harry Potter films. So I thought that was kind of ironic, just from the entertainment standpoint of connecting the two rats. But yeah, he plays Peter Pettigrew, or Wormtail, in the Harry Potter movies.
Probably the only one that has a larger resume. It's like, because you got Gibson, who's got a large resume, and then him. And it seemed like the rest of the actors didn't have so much of a large resume.
Yeah, well, again, a lot of them, as we discussed prior to the recording, are British actors, and they have careers. I mean, again, you can go through IMDb and look at all the things that they've done, and they have solid working careers. They're just not top tier. They're not the people that you run into in movies and go, oh, I have to go see this new so-and-so movie, or I have to go see this movie because I know so-and-so's in it. Like Benjamin Whitrow, he's the guy that does the voice of Fowler, the only other male chicken in the whole place. And he was on the stage in the late 50s and had a long career. This movie came out in, 2000? And he recently passed away in 2017, and he was still working. He was still doing stuff. So it's pretty incredible that they got this cast of people together to make this movie that is, for all intents and purposes, as I said earlier, a remake of The Great Escape, but it's great. I mean, I love this movie.
Yeah, you kind of make you wonder because they found small time actors who didn't command such a huge paycheck. That's why they were able to focus the budget on making this a quality movie. You didn't have to pay big bucks for some prima donna who wants her own trailer or whatever.
Yeah, or his own country to record his lines in. But yeah, the cool thing about the IMDb page is that it usually has images associated with it. So if you can't remember the character's name, you can see the chicken that they match up with or the human that they match up with.
Which is something I wanted to ask you too, because I mean, this seems to be unique to the Chicken Run entry. Because there's like Disney animated films, I'm like, oh, what part did that person play? Because you'll look through the casting list, and you'll see, oh yeah, that's the like Finding Nemo. That had a cast that was uncredited. That Jeffrey Rush and the lady from The West Wing, I forget her name. And a large number of actors that weren't really headlined, and you're kind of like, oh, what character did she play? And you just see the character's name. It's like, which character was that? You don't know. Chicken Run, like you said, has their picture of the chicken they played next to the actor.
Yeah, that I have noticed that as well, because I agree with you. There's sometimes when you hear a voice in a movie, we'll go all the way back to a Goofy movie, and I forget who we discussed. I think Pauly Shore actually was uncredited in that movie, and he was a pretty big part of it, but it's like, yep, nope, uncredited. And then you have to remember, like you said, what the character's name is, and they don't always say it. It's not like they introduce everyone. You're like, God, which one was that? And so, yeah, no, I like the fact that they had this in here, so I know, who's who in the coop.
Yeah, that's again, yeah. It's just, I wish it was a universal feature in IMDb, because yeah, sometimes you really got to struggle.
Yep, and sometimes that's frustrating. But as far as the voice actors go, like I said, not a lot of them are breakouts. This wasn't a breakout movie. It was just a good, solid voice animated, from the same folks that bring you Wallace and Gromit, movie. And I don't even know if Mel Gibson was the draw for this movie. It just happened to be he was in it.
If memory serves, I think even the ads didn't really play that he was the American big time actor for this movie. I think it was the big thing was from the makers of Wallace and Gromit. I think that was even in America. I think that was the big seller. Because I think at the time, back in 2000, Wallace and Gromit were pretty popular here. Especially among the not so much the cult following or the nerds or whatever. It's just they actually got some pretty decent mainstream following for a little while.
Yes, and it's still recognizable as a thing that when most people, at least maybe it just could be the circles that I run in, but when most people see it on TV, they know, oh, it's Wallace and Gromit, or this animation style looks like something from Wallace and Gromit. Because again, the pirate movie, again, I forget what the name of it was. There have been a number of movies put out by these same folks, the makers of Wallace and Gromit, and it's still a marketing add-on, or at least a selling point, that's what I was looking for animated movies that come out from them, because it is something that people recognized and did have some popularity back in the day.
Here's the funny thing too, the one thing I noticed watching this movie, and is again, coming from such a popular, I don't know, is franchise the right word, but from a popular set, there were almost no references to Wallace and Gromit, or no cameos or nothing. I mean, it's just Chicken Run was its own movie. They didn't have any Easter eggs. I get that now. I'm just now saying it.
Eggs.
Yeah. Okay. Chicken joke. But yeah, it's
there were plenty.
Oh yeah, plenty of eggs. Apparently not enough for Miss Tweety though.
Nope.
But yeah, there were no Wallace and Gromit Easter eggs. I mean, it's just pretty much his style was the only Easter egg here. It's but that was it.
I don't think they do that in movies though. Nowhere near what the MCU does, but I don't think that there are any Easter eggs in their other movies either. It's just,
No.
This is the style we like to work with.
Yeah, this is the style, and this is the story, and this is what we're sticking to. We don't need Easter eggs to make them popular. And not saying that Easter eggs are a bad thing. It's just not their thing.
Well, ironically, Easter is coming up, so just saying. Listeners, we're recording this prior to Easter. You'll hear it after Easter, so happy Easter. But yeah, eggs. And you're probably not getting them from Mrs. Tweedy's farm because they don't have any chickens anymore, unless she bought more. And she was making chicken pies anyway.
Yeah,
So.
which brings it was a good segue into the environmental issue that I thought of when I watched it. I don't know if environmental is the correct word, but it just seems very counterintuitive to go from egg farming to slaughtering your chickens to make pies. Because egg farm seems sustainable. Keep your chickens happy, keep them well fed, they keep laying eggs. It's a continuous process. But slaughter your chickens and make them into pies, you've only got so many chickens, and now you don't have any eggs and you don't have any chickens. Now you have to buy more chickens.
That was the part that I had concern about. Like, so now you're just going to have to buy more chickens? Did you think that through? Because you don't have that many. If you only use the chickens that you have, you're not making but a few pies, and unless they're incredibly awesome and you can charge 600 pounds for them, then you're really running a finite, business.
Yeah, it's almost like you got a lot more of your income has to be paid out to your overhead, I guess is the word. It's like now you have to buy more chickens to make. So it's like, in other words, you better hope those chickens are a lot cheaper than the pies that you sell if you're going to turn any kind of profit.
Or that you can get at least, if your chicken is $10, you better hope that at 2 pounds a pie, or maybe even 1 pound, because I think that's what, like $1.50 American. So let's call it. Let's hope you can get about 6 to 8 pies out of one chicken.
Well, I'm about to say, just now, I came back from England. I bought a pie. How much was that pie that I bought? I don't know. It was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 5 pounds.
Oh, good God! You're gonna have to be. Let's see. So at $10 a chicken plus all of your other overhead, transportation, distribution, you're probably not making too much on those pies. I think you've got a better shot of just buying more producing chickens and figuring out how to get your chickens to make more eggs.
Yeah, which, kind of lends to the social commentary. It's like about your workforce. You think slaughtering your workforce is going to make you rich and everything like that, when it's just if you just make them happy, feed them better, treat them better, give them better housing, and it's like, and they'll be happy to lay eggs for you to the live long day. They'll put out, but no, you want to slaughter. If this isn't a commentary on the general condition of the American labor force as well as the British, it's like, I don't know.
Rise of the proletariat! Sorry.
The chickens are revolting. Indeed they are.
You're right. Yes, exactly. Indeed they are.
Yes, which it's funny too, because that also comes from was it History of the World Part 1? It's like, sire, the peasants are revolting. Yes, they are.
Yes, they are. I liked that little through line where Mr. Tweedy was constantly trying to catch the chickens in mid-conspire, and had always had his suspicions. The little teapot thing when he was doing the search through. Yeah, it was an amusing subplot, I guess. I don't know if that's what you can call it, but I liked it. I liked pretty much everything about this movie. So let's go to Mrs. Tweedy and her big chicken pie scheme. Mr. Tweedy was an egg farmer. 3rd generation. He goes through the whole thing. Oh, my father was an egg farmer. His father was an egg farmer. So this is the Tweedy egg farm, and unless there's some social deconstruction here that I don't know about, in the UK, women tend to take the man's surname as their name. So Mrs. Tweedy was not originally Mrs. Tweedy. Why is Mrs. Tweedy running and dictating what happens on Mr. Tweedy's egg farm? I mean, she's definitely a domineering woman. I get that.
Yeah,
But
and just to put my little disclaimer on this, me being able to understand and describe this situation doesn't necessarily mean I subscribe or support or condone it. So that being said, this movie, in an innocent way, it seems, is portraying that the domineering woman who took over her husband's farm, who is rightly, it's like the husband should rightly be in charge, is the old feeling in Western society. Man is, the king of the castle or whatnot. And Miss Tweedy, being the evil villain of this story, also happens to be the domineering woman who took over her man's farm. And it's kind of playing along that social construct of if she's doing that, she must be bad because she's going against social norms.
I suppose you could read that into it in much the same way as we discussed earlier about reading unintended things into the movie. I think, again, the characterization was just, well, we need a bad person, and the prison guard, he's a henpecked husband. Yes, I said that intentionally. And he's a bit of a bumbler. He's not exactly the smartest, chicken in the coop, and it only stands to reason that the bad person, the big bad, would have to be the person with which he is partnered. So he's kind of like the henchman that's married to the boss, and I don't necessarily know that it's one of those things that they were trying to make it a point of saying, women running things, taking over. I think they just wanted to make him a henpecked husband.
Yeah, but I say I didn't think that's what they're trying to do. I think it was just one of those innocent things where it's just, this is the way it's been, and this is a convenient story thing. I think it's the innocent systemic thing that you don't realize what you're saying. It's just because you're so used to it. That's how it's being said. That's what I said. I didn't say they meant to do it that way. I'm saying that's the condition that we've had.
Okay, I'll buy that. I did like the way they showed her when she first appeared, where you don't actually see her, you just see her boots stomping and sort of a reveal like, this is Mrs. Tweedy, and she is a bad person. She's evil, especially since she's making the decision to kill the chickens based on their production, which, I mean, if you're in an egg farm, it seems like the thing you would want to do is, in any industry, is remove your unproductive employees. Just so happens in the case of chickens, that's the only thing they thought they were good for. So never sent them to a chicken petting farm or chicken petting zoo or anything like that. Like, nope, that's dinner. All right.
Which, kind of brings me to something else I thought of, watching this film, though. It's like, most of those chickens, man, I have this phrase nowadays because it's just observed behavior, and I just say, man, people are trash. And some of these chickens are trash. Every escape attempt that Ginger made earlier in the film, it looks like she was succeeding, except when her friends got involved, and then they are utter failure, And it's just like, at some point, you what, you guys are really, you deserve to be here. Bye.
If it weren't for the fact that she made a statement about, yes, it would be easy for one or two of us to escape, but the point is all of us need to escape.
True. I forgot that line.
She'd have been gone a long time ago with her and a couple of friends, and especially the one that kept knitting. And go, oh, is he going on holiday? Or oh, she's going on holiday. Like everybody was going on holiday. If they were away from where she could see them, they were on holiday, which was a nice tip of the hat, if you will, to being bird-brained and that sort of thing, which was a very subtle joke. And on that point, of all of the chicken jokes that were injected into this film, at no point were they ever able to work in the "that's why the chicken crossed the road" or "why did the chicken cross the road" reference.
Very true. I didn't even think about that.
It's in the trivia. I was like, really? And I started thinking about it, going, huh, how about that? They didn't. But, as I'm watching this movie, I'm sorry, go ahead, because I'm sure you were probably going to stay on point, and I'm not.
Oh, well, no, it's just, like kind of going back to the whole thing, too. It's like when you talked about the one chicken that was being unproductive and was taken to slaughter, And that's the thing. Everyone was like, why didn't you give us some of your eggs? It's like, she never even told us. And everyone's like, well, why weren't you guys looking out for each other? That was again my frustration with that. It's like, come on, you guys are stuck in this together. You guys have to work together. Now look at it.
And if you look at the way that the coops were designed, and the way that, at least in videos that I've seen, more current egg farms exist, the chicken sits over a hole. When an egg comes out, it goes down a thing. At the Tweety farm, which again probably would have increased production had they gone to the mechanical mechanism of getting the eggs to roll down to a thing. It appeared as though they were manually harvesting the eggs.
Mm-hmm.
So they would go pull them out of the nest. You'd think the other chickens would look over and go, huh, didn't pull anything out. Well, Betty, or whatever her name was, she's not laying any eggs. It seems like if you're working towards that, and I'm going to use the word just sort of jokingly, the communist for the good of all kind of manifesto, then they should have taken their eggs and put them over in each of the nests, so it looked like each of them was laying 3 eggs. So you got your top performers who are leveling out their egg production to give to the non-productive chickens. Mm-hmm. And you've got, actually not even the communists, you've got the socialist dream, because the communist would be the government in control of that, and socialism is, or at least as democratic socialists are putting it now, is the people are in charge of production. So an interesting social or economic commentary, and what happens if you don't produce in a capitalist society.
Yeah, but I mean, I hear what you're saying on this one, but this one is not. It's like you've kind of gone a little bit beyond the whole social construct, because now this is
absolutely
this is survival in a free society, whether you want to call it capitalism or socialism or whatever. Yeah, that's one thing, but when you got the threat of, hey man, if she doesn't have an egg, she's getting slaughtered. And if we want to all make it out alive, then hey, some of us give up some of the eggs, because we'll rail on her poor performance later, but if we want her to live, then give her some eggs, damn it.
Okay, and I'm not supporting socialism or denigrating socialism, but from the standpoint of what you just said, isn't that really what all economic theories talk about? If you don't produce, then you're homeless, or you don't have access to medical care. If everyone produces, then everyone has access to stuff. I mean, we are really going deeper down this rabbit hole than I thought we were going to.
I don't know if I'm prepared to get into this conversation, so I can't give you an adequate answer at the moment. It's a nuanced answer, and I have thoughts on what answers I could give you right now, but like I said, for the sake of going deeper down a rabbit hole than I really care to at the moment.
And I don't want Chicken Run to turn into the pros and cons of specific economic theories. So let's just say that chicken egg production in this movie is allegorical with capitalism, and we'll leave it at that. Okay. So and I'm not, and again, I'm not promoting any of the economic theories. I'm merely stating that if you wanted to, you could make a compelling argument for the representation that this movie offers as a means of comparison.
Fair enough, absolutely, and which really goes to show that this whole discussions that we have in these podcasts, just we can take a movie and just really go places with them. Places.
Yeah, of all the things I thought we were going to talk about, and this kind of goes to what Rob Neese had suggested, like how well do you know your shipmate, that sort of thing, which we are working into the podcast. We're just kind of tightening some bits of that up. I did not, nor do I think that anyone could ever really look at this and go, oh, they're going to have a conversation about, principles of economics and, the law of supply and demand and how capitalism works or socialism. Like, no, just sort of happened organically, which I think all of the eggs in this are organic. So if you're into that sort of thing, they're not free range, so that'll make some people sad. And there's only one free range chicken, at least at the time, or as he referred to himself in the movie for the duration, and that's a rooster. And I did like how Rocky plays the rats and says, I will give you every egg that I produce if you give me, turned out to be a stretchy band thing or whatever. And the rats were like, ooh, eggs. Yes, okay, cool, we'll take it. And then only to find out that they'd been bettered by the filthy Yank, who's late for every war.
Which, that was actually one of the line I laughed out loud of. Still, even 19 years later, I still laugh at that line because it has historical value. Because that's what the British were saying about Americans during World War II. You're overpaid, oversexed, and over here.
Yep. And I liked Fowler as a character.
Oh yeah,
he was a lot of fun. He's got the crotchety old RAF guy stereotype, and I found it amusing that ultimately the answer to their question about how to get out of the chicken coop turned out to be with them the entire time.
Go on.
When Rocky shows up and he's flying over the fence because he got launched or whatever, and they get inspired by flight, and they're talking about going over the fence. Actually, they were talking about going over the fence first, and then he shows up and is like, oh, well, we'll just fly over. That's the way this is going to work. When he leaves, they're like, oh, this is never going to work because we can't fly. And that's when they look at Fowler and his wings and start asking the questions because they'd been ignoring him the entire time. Like, yeah. Old guy with his old war stories. Only to find out that the old war stories are actually kind of useful because that's where they get the idea to build the crate.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer was within them the entire time. They didn't really need Rocky. He was just a catalyst to get them thinking that way.
So the question is do you think Rocky kind of suffered the Indiana Jones syndrome, that he was unnecessary to the story and they would have come to the same conclusion eventually without him?
I'm not sure I'm making the connection there. Which movie did Indiana Jones?
Oh, you've never
connect.
You've never heard
that theory.
Oh, it started in The Big Bang Theory. They were watching an episode where Sheldon shows Amy Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's like, so what'd you think of the movie? Because Sheldon thinks it's the greatest movie ever made. And she's like, oh, it was good, except the glaring thing that Indiana Jones was absolutely unnecessary for the progression of the story. And throughout the entire episode, they go through all these plot points that really Indiana Jones was ineffectual throughout the entire thing. It's like, oh, well, they would have gotten the headpiece if Indiana Jones wasn't there. And it's like, yeah, but the staff was the wrong length, and so they would have been digging in the wrong place. It's like, well, if Indiana Jones wasn't there, they would have got the whole headpiece and realized to take part of the staff off. They would have got the Ark anyways. All the Nazis die regardless of whether Indiana Jones was there or not, because they open up the Ark, they all die. And it's just it just shows that throughout the entire movie, Indiana Jones really had no effect on Nazis getting the Ark and all dying. So now understanding that is just wondering is like, so Rocky showing up, was it necessary for him to get them to start thinking that? Or do you think Ginger and the other hens might have come up with the idea? It's like, well, hey, Fowler, you flew in the war. What have you got? We've been ignoring you this whole time. Do you think that would eventually happen regardless of Rocky's presence, or do you think he was necessary?
I think he was necessary based on the way the story worked, because had Rocky not shown up, the hens would have still produced at the same rate, and the chicken egg farm would have become a chicken pie farm, or whatever, pie factory. Mrs. Tweedy would have still made the decision because egg production was still at the same level. So I think that him being there was fortuitous to get them thinking that way. And actually, it was good that he left, because otherwise they'd have just probably felt that they'd failed in the first place. I mean, I don't know. It could have gone, a different way. But I think he had to be there to get them thinking about flying in the first place. So in that way, he's important. And had they not figured out the flying, they would have been chicken pies in about 3 days anyway. So, in fact, sooner rather than later, because he rescued Ginger from the thing and ended up breaking the machine. So they were already slated to die anyway. So I think he was an important aspect. To the Indiana Jones thing, I would argue that while Indiana Jones's presence is not necessarily required throughout the entire movie, because yes, the Germans would have found the Ark of the Covenant and they would have taken it to the island. Never mind that they submerged for what appeared to be a couple of days and Indiana Jones was hanging on the outside of the submarine. I still don't know how that part worked, but let's move past that and get to the part where they open up the Ark and their faces melt off, which, by the way, freaked me out when I was a kid. Anyway, yes, all of that still would have happened. But the Germans would have still been in possession of the Ark. So had Indiana Jones not been there, he would have not been able to ultimately, at the end of the movie, retrieve the artifact and put it in a place where no one could find it.
And that was the punchline at the end of the episode. It's like after all that, they're trying to find ways to refute Amy's claim that Indiana Jones had no part in it. That's the one thing they said, yeah, but if Indiana Jones wasn't there, he wouldn't have been able to take the Ark and put it in a warehouse like a hero.
So I will disagree with Amy Farrah Fowler, Dr. Amy Farrah Fowler's conclusion that Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark is an okay movie, and I will more closely agree with Sheldon that it is a fantastic movie.
And yes, I will agree to that as well. Which also brings me to just one quick point about the German U-boat thing. And again, I'm not an expert on U-boat operations, but I am a former submariner, and I do know a little bit about, World War II history or anything, but submarines from those days generally did not transit submerged. And unless they were in a war zone, they didn't regularly submerge unless, except during daylight hours. And, like I said, only if there was an imminent threat of possible enemy incursion. That being said, going from where they were to where they were going, probably not a war zone, probably would have spent the entire transit on the surface, where submarines of those days moved faster. Because submerged, they were considerably slower. So the idea of Indiana Jones just hiding up topside, a little bit more plausible. The actual problem I have with that is that lookouts would have also been out there. So
yes,
where was he hiding? That would be my question. Not so much as like, hey, how did he survive them being submerged? It is very feasible that the thing transited the entire time on the surface. It's just, how did the lookouts not see him?
And how long did it take, and what did he eat and drink? More importantly, drink, because they were in the Med. That's all salt, and it's actually a higher concentration of salt than the Atlantic. So what did he drink?
Probably nothing.
All right, then.
Like a hero. Which also comes to a great segue, too. Did you notice the little Indiana Jones reference in Chicken Run?
Maybe? Refresh me?
The scene where Rocky is rescuing Ginger from the machine, and he ends up needing rescuing himself because he kept tripping on the pies and being covered in gravy. She goes,
"Oh, the big ball thing when they're rolling down the doodad."
No. She props open the door to the oven, which is closing, with a wrench. Grabs him. They manage, but the wrench breaks, or and the door continues down. They both slide into the door. She turns around, grabs her hat, and yanks it just before the door shuts on her arm.
Oh, no, I must have looked away for that. I'd forgotten that scene was in there.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm trying to think, what other movie did that, where it's like, oh, well, Simpsons did that and parodying Indiana Jones, but yeah, the door shutting and realizing, I don't have my hat, reaching in, grabbing the hat, and pulling it out just before the door shuts. So, it's a fairly
common movie trope, so...
Yeah.
I think Indiana Jones just did it really well.
Yeah, to which case everybody gives it credit for.
Yep.
But, the other movie references that I like is that there were several Star Trek references in there as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did like that.
I've given her all she's got.
Yes.
And it's like,
I laughed out loud.
And what is that? It's like, it's a Klingon.
They did such a good job putting this movie together with the number of jokes, and the jokes that were specific to the situation, like when they were trying to launch themselves over the wall and learn how to fly, and the rats are just sitting there like, oh, when the chicken runs on the fence, oh, is that your first offense? That is classic, classic dry British pun humor, and I laughed hysterically. My mother-in-law was staring at me going, what are you doing? Why are you laughing at that? Like, because it was funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched this movie with my mother-in-law, and we talked about it a little bit, just kind of oh, well, that was okay. I don't really know that it's her cup of tea, as it were, but she enjoyed watching it and talking to me about it, so, and she has been a guest on the podcast before, too, so she was here for the Christmas bonus episode that we did our first year, where I just did a watch-along with National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. She was one of the voices in the background.
Nice.
But the other issue that I had with this movie was when, of all the things that you could possibly find unbelievable about this, chickens talking, using hand tools, building an aircraft, creating catapults, and things like that. The thing that bothered me the most was when Mrs. Tweedy was stuck in the chicken pie machine, which is an awesome idea. I wish I had one. And she's in the gravy vat and it's building up pressure. And I'm thinking, heat builds pressure. That's got to be really, really hot. Why isn't she scalding her? Why isn't her face melting? It's got to be stupid hot. And then when it exploded and she had the classic animated movie metal skirt, from being trapped inside a metal thing that exploded, it's like, okay, I get it, and I bought into it. I'm like, she'd have been so dead.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind that chickens built an airplane. That's irrelevant.
Yeah, that's just saying. Oh, that ain't them dogs' real voice. It's like, well, thanks for spoiling it for everybody else.
Oh, son of a biscuit. When you've got chickens flying in and you've got an entire human being towed behind them by Christmas lights, and you're buying into that as a storytelling concept, but you're frustrated because she lands in a chicken pie machine and doesn't get scalded because of the gravy. I think there's, other things to worry about.
Yeah. Well, if you really want to be nitpicky too, the one thing that, if it could be said, I had a quote unquote problem with it, hashtag I didn't, but is when she takes a swipe at Ginger on they're both hanging from that string of Christmas lights, and it's like, oh, the drama. Did she get her head cut off? But it's like, oh no, her head's there, and then it reveals that they cut the wire, and she's just kind of holding it like nothing. And I'm like, you cut the wire, man. That's a strong ass chicken. To not even make it look like there was like a jerk or something like that, where the tension now is on her and not the wire.
Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not even flinch. I'm like, whoa, that is a strong chicken.
And they had a great workout regimen while Rocky was trying to teach him how to fly, so you could maybe explain her strength with that. But the
she's super chicken, which was an actual cartoon, by the way. But anyways,
yes, I know. Super chicken. Anyway,
that wasn't the theme song, but okay.
That was not. It was I remember it, and I'm not. You're not getting that out of me.
Do you want me to sing it?
Maybe for the closing.
Okay. So, anyways, you were gonna say.
So, anyway, while all of the other chickens were working out, Ginger was always harassing Rocky, so she didn't get the same workout. It was like she was better than the rest because she was the the leader and didn't want to partake in learning to fly, but they ain't got wings. Learning to fly, but they got small wings. Anyway, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't help myself.
So you're saying that, but you're not going to sing Super Chicken.
Well, okay, fine.
That's okay.
But it I don't really actually have a lot more to say about this movie. I mean, it was a lot of fun and I liked it. So, did you have any other points that you wanted to bring up? I'm not trying to get out of it, but I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
No, other than that, the fact that it's like at the very end, I thought it was a very clever plot resolution. Because I mean, when they're flying away, my first thought when I first saw this movie is like, where are they going? Where are they going to go that's safe? And then they found a bird sanctuary, so I was like, oh, well, there you go, nicely wrapped up, brilliant.
Yep, and the rats were there too, and they were saying they could start their own farm, and it became a whole riff on which comes first, the chicken or the egg. And again, way to close the movie because I laughed hysterically.
Yes.
With all that being said, and since we really don't have anything to add, if you did own it, where would you put it on your shelf?
Well, and not to say that this wasn't a good movie, but I mean, it'd be general population, or I have my Wallace and Gromit collection. It could be argued, all my movies are good movies, or else I wouldn't own them, So it's just, unfortunately, it finds itself in the crowd of general population.
Okay. Well, so let me ask you this, and this goes to the origins of some of the movies that I have on my shelf. I didn't necessarily buy all the movies on my shelf. Christy did buy some. And by extension, the girls, Cassidy and McKenna, have chosen movies that they wanted to have on the shelf and whatnot. Is that the same in your household, or are you the sole arbiter of the movie collection?
I am the sole arbiter, proprietor, purchaser, caretaker, custodian, whatever you want to call it. I pretty much, and that's the thing. I mean, other than you, and my friend Danny, we're not big movie collectors. It's just maybe a couple of friends own a couple of movies here and there, but I mean, but a lot of my friends don't own any. I mean, they're happy with streaming or renting or watching it on their phones. It's like, yeah, there's, like I said, it's
Okay.
just me, you, and like I said, my friend Danny are the probably the biggest movie collectors that I know in my life. So yeah, it's just me. If anything, I get a lot of heat for collecting movies. So.
Okay. Well, that brings up an interesting segue that we will talk more about at the end of the episode when we lead into episode 50. Ta-da! 50 big episodes. Speaking of collections and other things for our listeners, and Dan and I discussed this beforehand, episode 50 is going to be a listener pick, and we're also going to be discussing our movie collections and complete collections and some other stuff. So that was a well worked in segue, but the collection of movies, like I said, we get movies because we like them, as collectively, and I just I know that there are some people, like my brother-in-law, for instance, who said on the Tin Cup episode that he only has 10 or 15 movies, and movies are not his big thing. He tends to go out and do the competitive softball thing. I don't know that many people that have as many movies as we do, between, and I have nowhere near the number of movies you do. So, I like the fact that we can do this, and having this many movies between the two of us, really does give us a good long run for as long as we want to review the movies on our shelves. So, part of why I picked you. Thanks. But for me, this movie would go smack dab in the middle of the second shelf. It is entertaining as all get out. I love the animation style. It's a great retelling of a classic World War II movie. And it's just, fun all around. Is it top shelf? No, but it's not for me in what I would refer to as general population. It's, because I kind of think of that as like the third shelf of 5. It's solid second shelf, and no plans to move it anywhere else. I didn't remember how good this movie was until I rewatched it for this episode, because it's not a movie that I pull down and watch often. but I do see it up there and go, oh yeah, I remember liking that movie. And I liked it more this time, having had a good break from it, than I think I had like the last couple of times I saw like bits and pieces of it. So, yep, solid second shelf.
Nice.
All right. So that being said, it's time to find out what listener pick we're going to have for episode 50.
Let's do it.
Okay, so here we go. And for episode 50, it's John Wick.
Okay, interesting. Very nice.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick.
Yeah, considering, pretty good timely too, since the third installment is coming out soon.
Yeah. Wow, convenient. I didn't even think about that aspect of it, but all right, cool. All right, with that being said, listeners, as discussed earlier, episode 50 is going to be kind of a bigger episode. It's supersize. We're going to discuss John Wick, and we're also going to discuss some of our complete movie collections. Dan, did you want to kind of preface like what you're intending to talk about?
Well, yeah, when you brought the concept up and everything, I mean, yeah, obviously this podcast is about our movie collection, it's things that we own, whether it be me or you or both of us, but there are certain standout aspects of our collection that we're especially proud of. And for me, especially since this is also the time of a new installment coming out next month, I want to talk about my Godzilla collection, which is kind of a standout portion of my movie collection. I'm proud to say that I finally have a complete collection. Thank you, Brian, for helping that out.
You're welcome.
It like I said, it's a complete collection, all of his movies, not all of them in the best editions of their publications, but I have a complete title thing. So, we're going to discuss things like that, why we're proud of them, why I like them, and maybe, a little bit discussion on the editions that I have and what makes it such a coveted collection for myself. But, the other aspect that we were going to talk about is that, being movie collectors also invariably makes us collectors of all kinds of other things. Brian, you have an extensive collection of
Legos, and strangely enough, Mr. Potato Heads. There's a lot of themed potato heads.
So
and
like I said, I've having been to your house, you have that, and obviously you and your wife are big Disney fans. There's a lot of Disney paraphernalia. So nerds that we are, it's like we have a large collection. I collect oddities. I collect movie memorabilia, or little things that just remind you of certain movies and things like that, special edition DVDs. So yeah, these are things that we're just going to discuss a little bit. It's just that that makes us collectors, nerds, whatever you want to put upon that. It's just we're gonna have fun with it.
Yeah, I wear the nerd I wear the nerd title proudly. I have no issues with my nerdiness.
No,
nerddom.
Nor do I. I wear it proudly as a badge of honor.
So, with that, listeners, if you have any feedback on Chicken Run or want to provide some input into or have some collections that you are especially proud of and want to, just kind of mention things that you have, movies that you have, or full series of movies that, again, I mean, I have 3 different versions of the full Star Wars, line of movies. The first 6, because once you get out of VHS, it's a little hard to go back and get like Rogue One on VHS. So, or The Force Awakens. I mean, I guess I could do it. I just don't want to. So anyway, but you can contact us on our Facebook page. You can email us at wrios2016mr@gmail.com. Catch us on Twitter at ourshelvesw, or leave us a voicemail at 804-699-1067. And with that, Dan, your movie-themed goodbye is?
When you find yourself in danger, when you're threatened by a stranger, when it looks like you will take a licking, buck, 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 there was someone out there who will hurry up and rescue. Just call for Super Chicken. When it looks like you have overlooked it, of course you knew the job was dangerous when you took it. He will drink his super sauce and throw the bag as for our loss, and he will bring him in alive and kicking. Buck, 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 there was someone out there who will hurry up and rescue. Just call for Super Chicken. Buck, buck.
Nice. I can't even top that. Listeners, we'll see you in 2 weeks with John Wick.